I'm Rebecca Williams, and you're about to start a 4-part mini course in virtual presentation skills. I put this course together because I believe it's really your first best step in professional development and really laying that foundation for strong communication skills moving forward. I encourage you to watch all 4 parts of the course. In each part, I highlight 3 common mistakes that most presenters make, and I give you 3 strategies and action items that you can use to become a better virtual presenter. So let's go ahead and get into the first part of this course. One of the most common questions I get from my clients and my students is, how do I manage my nerves before a presentation? And it's really natural to be nervous before a presentation. And that's why it's super important to get in touch with why you're nervous so you can rein that nervousness in a bit. So let's take a look at some common mistakes that presenters make that cause them to be nervous. Mistake number 1 that causes nervousness is you're not ready. Whenever I'm nervous before a presentation, it's almost always because I just haven't put enough time in. I haven't really taken the time to organize my content properly. I haven't taken the time to get my delivery down. I haven't rehearsed enough. Giving a virtual presentation is similar to a sport. You really need to practice so you get that muscle memory and it becomes natural to you. So if you're feeling nervous about giving a presentation, if you can't visualize yourself hitting that home run, it's probably because you're not ready to. Mistake number 2 that causes nervousness is you're too focused on your performance. Many presenters think that a presentation is a performance. They think that they're on a stage and that they're being judged for every little thing that they say and that they do. Well, there's some truth to that, but the fact is a presentation is not a performance. And if you think about your presentation as a performance, you are always going to be nervous. Common mistake number 3, you're not in the right mindset. Maybe you've had these thoughts before giving a presentation. I'm going to make a fool of myself. I'm going to screw this up. What do I know about this topic? Giving a presentation can feel like a lot of pressure. But what's true is that these voices, these thoughts are coming from inside your own head. So that means if you are creating these thoughts, you have the power to change them too. So now that we've talked about the 3 common mistakes that cause nervousness, let's go over some strategies that will help you bring that level of nervousness down. Strategy number 1 for overcoming nervousness: rehearse, rehearse, rehearse. If you're feeling nervous because you're simply not ready to give your presentation, then take the time to get ready. I know it sounds a little oversimplified and maybe too obvious, but you'd be surprised how many people underestimate the power of rehearsal. The actor Donald Pleasance, he was a British actor. He played Dr. Evil in Austin Powers, if you're familiar with that film. He said, all the work gets done in rehearsal. And I couldn't agree with him more. There are so many things to figure out when you're doing a presentation. How are you going to get from one section to the next section? What story are you going to tell at the beginning and how are you going to tell it? What are all the little buttons you need to push on whatever platform you're using, like Zoom, for example, to run your poll or open the chat or all these little details? And if you don't know the answers to those questions, you are going to feel nervous. So the action item for you to bring down that nervousness and get yourself ready for your presentation is to practice running your presentation as many times as it takes. Practice running your presentation with your slides and actually voicing your words, not just reading them in your script, but actually voicing your words as you advance through the slides. Record yourself telling the story that you want to tell at the beginning of your presentation, and then watch it. How is that story making you feel? Is it getting the reaction that you hoped for. Run all the tech, maybe invite your friend into a dummy session, a dummy presentation, and run all the tech that you need to do so that you're prepared and you're ready and you know what is going to happen when you turn on your camera and you invite people into your virtual room. So, answering all these questions in your mind, really taking the time to get yourself ready for your presentation is a great way to bring down that level of nervousness. Strategy number 2 for overcoming nervousness: engage your audience in a two-way conversation. I used to be really nervous when giving presentations. I would talk really fast. I would actually sweat a lot, and my face would do this weird shaking thing all the time. But then one day I realized that I was approaching giving presentations all wrong. You see, I grew up in an opera family. My dad was an opera director. So I was approaching presentations as if I were giving a performance. No wonder I was nervous. Nobody likes giving performances. Well, almost nobody. And I realized one day, though, that a presentation is not a performance. A presentation is not a one-way thing. A presentation is a two-way conversation between you and your audience. So how do you create that two-way conversation? Well, you have to engage your audience. So your action item to engage your audience in your presentation to bring down your nerves is to answer 3 questions as you're preparing your presentation. Question number 1, what story am I going to tell at the beginning of my presentation to really engage my audience on an emotional level and to help me relax because I'm sharing something that is not just data or information. Question number 2 is, what question am I going to ask at the beginning of my presentation to engage my audience right away and get their voices in the room right away? And then question number 3 is, what are the questions I'm going to ask as I continue to give my presentation to continue to engage my audience? So having the answers to these questions ready is going to help you bring down that nervousness level, because you'll know that it's not just you giving a one-way performance, but it's actually a two-way conversation between you and your audience. Strategy number 3 for overcoming nervousness is practice a positive mindset. Those voices in your head may be loud, but they're not true. You have to really take control of your inner game so that you can overcome those nerves and give a great presentation. So how do you do this? Here's how I get in the right space before any presentation. Right before the presentation, usually 5 minutes before, I turn on a really high energy song. One of my favorites right now is Rocket Man by Elton John. I turn on that song really loud and I sing it. I actually belt it as loud as I can right before I turn the camera on and allow people to come into my room. What that does for me is it gives me so much energy and it allows me to let off some steam and have a little fun. And also it opens up my vocal cords and my voice so that I'm ready to communicate with people when they come in the room. So maybe that's not the right strategy for you, but your action item is to identify a practice that you can do before you give any presentation. Maybe it's to meditate, or maybe it's to visualize yourself giving a great presentation. But I want you to identify what that practice is for you and then commit to doing it before every presentation. If you really work to actively change your mindset into a positive space, it's going to help you show up for people. It's going to help you deliver your presentation in a way that allows you to connect with people on the other side so they can take away something and so you can feel good about what you've given them in your presentation. So that's it for lesson 1, how to overcome nervousness. You learned 3 strategies for how to bring that anxiety level down for any presentation. And those 3 strategies were rehearse, 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 engage your audience in a two-way conversation. And 3, practice a positive mindset. Be sure to watch the second part in the series where we'll be talking about how to communicate a clear message.